Every time SVG does something brilliant in a cup race, the same conversation fires up. Can he be a genuine title contender? And every time people answer it with vibes, he's quick, he's learning, he's got that thing, sure, but what does that actually tell you? Nothing useful, because nobody's naming the specific things still standing in his way. I count five, at least two have nothing to do with driving, and one of them might not be something he can fix at all. So let's go through them. The first one is the most visible, so let's clear it early. Oval racecraft at cup level isn't one skill, it's a stack of them layered on top of each other across 400 miles. Shane's still building that stack in real time. His short run speed is genuine, the kind of pace that makes spotters on other teams sit up when a restart is coming, but cup races aren't won in a 15-lap burst. They grind through fuel runs, through stage breaks, through that dead middle section of a long green flag stint where the car goes away underneath you and the only thing keeping your race together is how well you manage a machine that stopped doing what you want. That long run management. Reading the tires across a stint, adjusting your inputs as grip falls away unevenly, staying relevant without eating up what you'll need for the final stage. Still developing, and you can see it when you look. There are races where the first stage reads strong and the third stage tells a different story. Not because the car got worse, because the margins tightened and the feel wasn't quite deep enough yet to cover it. Every cup driver faces that learning curve, but the gap is real, and it leads directly into the second barrier. Pit strategy, not what the crew does, what Shane does with the information his crew gives him, when to take the wave around, when to give up track position for fresh rubber versus staying out and defending on old tires, when to pit early for clean air versus running long to jump a cycle. Those calls come fast, and they don't happen in isolation. They happen inside a relationship with your crew chief, your spotter, the blokes calling the adjustments. What Shane's still building is the shorthand, not the language, the instinct. Knowing when your crew chief is fully backing the call and when he's leaving a gap for you to push back. That kind of fluency only comes from hundreds of races with the same voices in your ear, and he's not there yet, which matters more than people think. Because without it, even the right strategy can get executed a half second too slow, and at this level, a half second changes everything. Two barriers down, and so far, both of them sit inside the car. The next one doesn't. Manufacturer politics. Cup racing runs inside an ecosystem where factory support, technical alliances, and the flow of engineering data all depend on relationships that take years to build. Shane drives for Trackhouse. Trackhouse runs Chevrolet, but where does Trackhouse sit inside Chevrolet's internal hierarchy? How much shared data comes their way versus what Hendrick gets access to? How much of the engineering depth that separates a competitive car from a championship car is actually available to his team on equal terms? This one has nothing to do with Shane, nothing. It's structural. And it matters because you can be the most talented driver on the grid and still be fighting with one hand behind your back. If your team doesn't sit near the top of its manufacturer's food chain, effort won't shift that. It moves on its own schedule. And that structural reality feeds into the fourth barrier, one that sounds simple but isn't. Calendar depth. There are circuits on the Cup schedule Shane has seen once, maybe twice. The intermediate ovals especially reward the kind of familiarity you can only accumulate across years. Years of setup notes, years of knowing what the surface does in the afternoon versus the morning, what the second groove gives you once 40 laps of rubber have been laid down. He's fast enough to compete at most of them on talent alone. But competing at one track on a Saturday night and competing across 26 different weekends in a single season, that's a different job entirely. And no amount of raw speed fully compresses that timeline. Four barriers, all real, all specific. If any of this is shifting how you thought about his situation, tell me in the comments which one you think closes first. Genuinely curious. But the fifth one is different from the others, and it's the one I keep thinking about. Garage identity, not reputation. Identity. There's a gap between being respected as quick and being treated as a genuine problem. The kind of problem where 5 or 6 teams build their entire race plan around the belief that you can beat them any given Sunday. That circle is small, always has been. You don't earn your way in by running up front a handful of times. You earn it by being the reason someone else's strategy changed, by being the car a crew chief accounts for when he's mapping pit windows on a Tuesday afternoon, by being a headache that refuses to go away week after week until you become a permanent line in everyone else's calculations. Shane's not in that circle yet, and he might be one strong stretch of races away from it, but right now, the garage treats him as dangerous on his day, not dangerous every day. And that one distinction, that single gap, shapes everything else. How drivers race around him in traffic, how much space he gets on a restart, whether teams include him in their endgame scenarios or quietly look past him once it gets down to 20 to go. So, 5 barriers, stack them, and here's the honest picture. Long run racecraft, developing, not done. Pit strategy communication, still maturing. Manufacturer positioning, partly beyond his control. Calendar depth, needs time that cannot be faked. Garage identity as a weekly threat, hasn't turned yet. None of those are walls, but all 5 existing at once is a weight that talent alone doesn't carry. And the clearest version of where SVG sits right now is probably this. He's closer than most people outside the sport understand and further away than a lot of us back home want to hear. That's not a negative take, that's the reality of what he's attempting. Walking into cup racing in your mid-30s from a different series, a different country, an entirely different kind of racing, and trying to reach the top, not just compete, reach the top. The gap between those two things is where careers either break through or settle into something less. And right now, we're watching that exact moment unfold with one of our own in the seat. If you want to follow this properly, not the highlight reel, not the hot takes, the real picture as it develops, subscribe and stay, because we're going to keep covering it this way, even when the honest version isn't the comfortable one. Where Shane Van Gisbergen ends up in Cup is still open, but now you know exactly what the question's made of.